Let's catch up with some Spurs news and notes that you may have missed, and then let's talk about the Spurs running it back, or so do we think.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Spurs on Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good work week. Thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen every single day. You can find us over on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Ken's 5 Plus app. The list goes on and on. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Look, FanDuel's hooking up all customers with a booster bonus daily. That is right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. You want to go to FanDuel.com to get started. What are we talking about today? We're going to catch up with some Spurs news and notes. Then bring in our guest, Hector Ledesma, contributor at Bally Sports. We're going to be discussing about the Spurs running it back, or are they? We're going to be discussing that and then getting some of your comments later on in the show. As y'all can know already, we are now on off-season mode here at Locked On Spurs. So we're trying to just ease up a bit before we ramp up again to start this. So maybe not a show every single day. Also, I had some technical issues, Hector, during our recording. Unfortunately, we can only get video to work at that time. I'm sorry, audio to get. So yeah, moving forward, it'll be an audio only component. But hey, you're here for Silver and Black. Let's get started. First up, Victor Wembanyama and Team France. Yeah. 2-0. They survived a scare versus Team Japan, beating them in overtime. Yes, overtime. 94-90. Yeah, it took France down to the wire. We're just connecting on almost every single three they threw up. But Wemby, he showed up when it mattered most down the stretch of the game. He had a quiet game, but he finished with 18 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. And he made some history. Definitely made some history. Wemby is the first player aged under 22 years old to combine for 15 plus points, 10 plus rebounds, 5 plus assists in a game at the Olympics. So kudos to Wemby and Team France. They survived. They're 2-0 in pool play. They'll be heading on to the quarterfinals soon. In other Spurs news, the Spurs have signed rookie Harrison Ingram to a two-way deal. So they'll likely wrap up all their two-way deals already. They're done. So it looks like that is the roster getting into next year. You can expect Harrison to be playing a lot of the games in Austin, but they gave him a two-way deal, so congratulations to him and the Spurs. In other Spurs news, speaking of deals and rosters, the Spurs have signed training camp deal Nathan Mensah. Now, he played with the Spurs in the Summer League in California and in Las Vegas. In 3 games in Las Vegas, he averaged about 7.3 points per game, 7 rebounds, 40 shooting from the 3 line. Again, expect him to play a bulk of the next season in the G League All Spurs. He went undrafted. He played last year with the Hornets and the G League Swarm. So he has some experience. So looks like the Spurs are slowly starting to fill up the training camp roster as the offseason continues. In other Spurs news, former Spurs news, Devontae Graham has signed with the Portland Trailblazers. So good luck to Devontae out with the Blazers there. And Dominic Barlow, he has reportedly signed with the Atlanta Hawks. So there you're keeping up with some former Spurs and what are they up to moving. In other Spurs news, Austin Spurs, yes, the Spurs G League affiliate, they made a deal with Grand Rapids. They are pretty much shipping out Charles Bediako. He averaged 5.5 points per game, 5.1 rebounds in 13 minutes last year with Austin. He's going to Grand Rapids. And the Austin Spurs are acquiring returning player rights to, if I read this right, Jamarco Pickett and Reggie Kisalunan. I think I'm saying that wrong, but nonetheless, you got 2 new Austin Spurs players gearing up for next season. And finally, another Spurs news, Keldon Johnson. Yes, how's his offseason going? Well, he's getting in the boxing ring. Keldon Johnson is training in the offseason by getting the gloves on and getting in the ring and training with a local San Antonio boxing coach. Not too surprising. Keldon is a very big fan of the combat sports, especially boxing. He supports a lot of the local San Antonio boxers. You can see him sometimes at local boxing events, but he got into the ring. He's staying in shape that way. So, yeah, if you want to see all that and more, you want to go to kens5.com/Spurs right now. There you have it, some quick Spurs notes. When we get back, we're going to be joined by Hector Ledesma, Bally Sports contributor. We're going to be discussing the Spurs running it back, or are they really running it back? We're going to discuss what we mean by that and more. That's coming up next right here on Locked On Spurs. Yeah, I want to talk to you about FanDuel. You love sports. I love sports. You never want them to stop. But FanDuel lets you keep the sports going whenever you want. All you got to do is open that app and dream up a bet anytime, whenever you're in the mood. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. You just want to go to FanDuel.com right now. Start making the most out of your summer. You can bet on parlays, spreads, win. I mean, seriously, think of something. FanDuel will have you covered there. Just download the app. It's easy to use, very intuitive, quick sign up, and you're good to go. So whether you're on your mobile device or your desktop, laptop, whatever, go to FanDuel.com, get that account now. Go to FanDuel.com immediately. FanDuel is official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Hey, I also want to talk to you about Muslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee. Go there right now, San Antonio, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive, located in the 281 and 1604 area. They got it all. You know, latte, cold brew, dairy alternative drinks, signature drinks like the Muslinger Coffee. What else? Mini donuts. They have you covered. Go see that menu. Go check them out. Open every single day, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Friendly staff, proud local sponsor of Locked On Spurs, and a proud community member of San Antonio. They give San Antonio the best drinks in town. So when you go there, also check out the Lightning Bolt series. Now, what is that? Well, first of all, it has one of the drinks called the Alien. That's in honor of Victor Wembanyama. Get it. Very delicious. They're supercharged drinks. They'll get you power throughout your day or get your day going. Now, they're usually made with Red Bull, but the default now will be Lotus Energy. That's 7 power plant extracts that has the same effect as a Red Bull, but it gives you those 7 power plant extracts. It allows you to have the flexibility to create new drinks, them to create new drinks. Muslinger has you covered, but if you want Red Bull, you just ask for that. They'll still make it that way. Go check out the Lightning Bolt series of drinks. Go to Muslinger's Drive-Thru Coffee. Follow them on social media at Muslinger SATX. Do that right now because life is too short for bland coffee.
A Jedi uses the Force. To subscribe to Locked On Spurs, pass on what you have learned.
And we're now joined by Hector Ledesma. He is a contributor at Bally Sports. Make sure to follow him on X at Hector Ledesma TV. Hector, what's up, buddy?
Jeff, how are you, my man?
I'm doing good. Sorry for the tech issues, man. As they say, S happens, man, and it happened to me. So we're making do. We're making do, everybody.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Hey, how's the offseason treating you?
Good. Doing the work for Clutch Points, keeping up with the Spurs free agency and everything else that's going on. Sean recently undergoing the procedure. Talking with Sean and making sure he's okay and doing a little piece on that. So good. He's good. He's good. He's doing, as he puts it, it was a quickie deal, not a big deal whatsoever. The pros there took care of him in a hurry. And so, good old Sean. It was good.
You see, more reason for you to follow Hector on X at Hector Ledesma TV. He'll have that story for you ASAP, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it's already up.
Oh, it's already up. Okay, well, perfect then. Then it's already up. Go check it out. Go to his X handle. The link should be there. Read up on Sean and see how he's doing A-OK. But Hector is here because we're going to be discussing kind of a big, broad topic. And that is the fact that this team is running it back. For all intents and purposes, they are. There was not a major move. As of this recording, we probably jinxed ourselves now, Hector. No Lauri Markkanen is in San Antonio. No Trae Young ever came to San Antonio. For the most part, Hector, they're running it back. Now, Spurs fans, they're kind of split on this. They don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Hey, it's a good thing because of chemistry, or it's a bad thing because we're still in rebuild mode. But we're here to explain to you why maybe, just maybe, it's a good thing that they're going to run it back. Hector, you're the guest. I'll let you kick things off here. That's basically what they're doing, Hector. They're running it back.
Jeff, I have a little bit of a disagreement with that. I don't think they're running it back. Now, here's the thing. You're correct in that if your definition of they didn't add an all-star, if that's your definition of they're running it back, well then yeah, they're running it back. But here's why I say they're not running it back is when I project out to, let's say they don't, the marketing thing doesn't happen, and let's say they don't make any other moves, and the roster as we know it now, with maybe one more little veteran pickup or whomever, is the roster we go with, including Keldon Johnson still on the team and the whole deal.
Hmm.
If that's the case, when you see them in that season opener, when you add Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes into the mix, like I'm just picturing watching them play.
Yeah.
They're gonna look vastly different than
Mhm.
they did last season, especially at the beginning of last season. Like the ball is mainly gonna be in the hands of Chris Paul, Wemby, Devin, and Harrison Barnes. Like it's gonna be mainly in their hands.
Mhm.
And so of the top four guys who are gonna get the most touches, two of them weren't on the team last year. To me, that's not
Mhm.
running it back. Now you can there's an argument to be made about how good is Chris Paul really at this point? Is he just
Mhm.
simply a savvy veteran? What's it going to
Yeah.
translate to on the court? And you can make the argument of, well, Harrison Barnes is just kind of a stopgap, what have you.
Sure.
But but at the end of the day, when you watch them play, when you project to watch them play, they're going to look big time different. And to me,
Sure.
that's not running it back.
When you say big time, Brent, yes, CP3 Barnes are big keys. They're different players. Technically, they're not 100% running the back. Champagny likely not going to be here. Barlow's not going to be here. Seti, the list goes on and on. But running it back, if we're sticking, with the overall topic here about why it's a good thing, Hector, chemistry. We saw how they ended that season last season. 9-11 wins, the last 11 games, I should say. When we were in that exit conference chat with them after following the last game, Hector, it felt like the season didn't end on a bad note. It felt like it ended on a good note. Trey Jones, Vassell, Keldon saying, "Yeah, we're eager to get things going." How key is chemistry in that aspect going to help this team moving forward?
It's going to help them. It's certainly not going to hurt them. Jeff, it's funny. Even I think both these things can be true. I think they're fine with the moves they made. I think just because they didn't add a Darius Garland, or let's assume they
Yeah,
don't add Markkanen, and because they
yeah,
didn't add Donovan Mitchell, I think because they didn't add those guys. I don't see this offseason as a failure. At the same time, I'm not maybe as high on the end of last season as other people were,
yeah,
because the end of last year wasn't truly representative of the Spurs. Like Vassell was out, Keldon
yeah.
was out, you know,
Sohan, yeah,
Sohan
Sohan
was
was out.
out,
Yeah.
Sohan was out. So I don't put a whole lot of stock. Now, the one thing I think you can put some stock into is Wemby's continued development. And
Sure.
that's another reason why I think they're going to be better. I didn't include it a little while ago in my answer about running it back, because he's obviously back, right? Like, so
Yeah.
he's still there. But I think another reason they're going to be much better, in addition to Paul and Barnes, is I think Wemby's going to be that much better. And so because of that, I think that's going to help the chemistry more. Like Vic's understanding and his comfort level of what he wants to do, where he wants to be.
Mhm.
That's going to be key, I think, in their progression. And sure, the chemistry is not going to help, but if we're honest with ourselves, like outside of Wemby, that core has been together for a while now. So if anything, the chemistry with Wemby in the mix will be better. But I think Wemby's progression, and rapid progression at that, is going to be more telling than any kind of
Right.
chemistry that he continues to evolve. He kind of continues to build with Dev and Sohan, Keldon, and so on.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. Sure, there was not a big blockbuster, sexy move made, but the all season is still young, Hector. Marketing, the smoke / rumors, that's still puffing up in the air. Marketing. There's not been a solid thing that's going to happen. It's over. He's getting traded to SA or GSW or what have you. So that could still happen. Do you think this team will ride with the roster they have right now for the entirety of next season, or you think things might change come All-Star break trade deadline?
I think no. I think things might change come trade deadline for one or two reasons. I think number one, we don't expect them to at All-Star trade deadline. We don't expect them to be number 2 or 3 in the Western Conference, right? So
Oh, sure. Yeah.
because we don't expect them, because we think they're going to be kind of fighting, the whole year, kind of in that place, like between like that play-in range, if you will. Because of that, they might have a guy or two, Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes, right at the start. who a team looking to make a push is going to want. So there's that aspect. Let's say they do surprise the heck out of us, and it's trade deadline time, and there they are hanging around like in the 6th seed.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to make any kind of a move that's going to be like, oh, this puts us in title contention. I don't think, especially considering Chris Paul's age and Barnes' contract situation. But I wouldn't be surprised if they make a little move, given all the draft picks they have, including the second rounders. I wouldn't be surprised, hey, a veteran swingman or veteran sharpshooter, somebody who they think without giving anything can help them maybe make like that surprising second round push, if you will. So either way I look at it, no, I don't expect them to stand pat with this roster the entire season.
Yeah, either it's letting CP3 go so we can go chase a ring, or Barnes as well. There could be changes like that. But Hector, do you think there's got to be a point though? Let's just say we come All-Star break and maybe the record is not indicative of a play-in or a playoff spot. They're gonna have to make a decision. Either they pull the plug again on the rest of the season and go into tank mode, or not. There's that aspect too. I don't think it'll get to that point. You're right. I do agree with you. They'll be better than they were last season. There's nowhere else to go but up, Hector. You look at Vegas. Vegas has them projected around the 34-35 win mark heading into next season, and Vegas knows all. So, yes, theoretically, there will be a leap. But even then, Hector, 35-34 doesn't get you into the play-in, does it?
No. And that'd be key in terms of what they decide to do, going forward and do they tank. But, I would caution anybody, Jeff, who thinks they're going – like this past year, no matter what people might think, they weren't trying to tank. When they got later in the season, I mean, they started winning games. It's not like Pop was like, hey, you know what? Let's see if we can get a super high draft pick. So let's set Victor out for a couple games just because. Like every time Victor missed a game, it was for a reason. Or if he did miss a game, it was for rest, right? Rest was the most common reason aside from the injury there, the ankle injury that kind of plagued him through the middle part of the season. Or if he was out for like one game. Wemby didn't miss more than one game until March. March was the first time he missed consecutive games. So it's not like when they got back to it's not like when they got into April, they were like, okay, I mean, he played that famous win against Denver that ended up altering the Nuggets' path in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's the second to last game of the season. He's in there, So they weren't trying to tank last year. So I caution people who are like, well, they've only won 10 games through 40. They're going to try to tank the rest of this year. Maybe they get a little bit more cautious with guys and the injuries. But I think to think that in year number 2 of Wemby, they're gonna go like, you know what? Let's just sit Wemby out. Let's just sit everybody else out around Wemby because Cooper Flag is sitting there waiting. Like I think that's a stretch, for anybody to think that in terms of tanking in what's going to be Wemby's second year.
Yeah, I don't see them tanking. But again, I put a caveat on there. If it's a point of no return, if for some freaking reason it doesn't work out and we're back covering 20 win area and it's the end of the season, you got your best bet is to go that route and then try to get in the best position in the draft. Atlanta, Hector, they may not be the worst team in the league. They could be another middle team in the East, and those picks that the Spurs got from them, may not be top 10. There's that aspect too.
Right.
Yeah, there's that aspect too. So you got to balance everything and kind of factor it in. But as far as running it back, though, yes, I hear what you say about how they closed out last season, not really at full power. They were playing teams already that were either cashing it in the season or playoff teams are already set. So there's that too. But hey, at this point, I'll take anything confidence-wise. If they're going to carry that over, go for it. Have fun. Do that. Wemby looks like he might be on a mission to prove himself better. I mean, Hector, you and I were there at the conference room, I should say, when he said, hey, I'm not even at the peak of my powers yet. So there's that. But there's also, running it back and then Oh, sorry, I should say. Let me start over again. What I mean by this is, you're right. They're not completely running it back, but how vital is Castle going to be in this quote unquote run it back? No major thing, because you're going to have to throw him out there, Hector. And you think Popovich is going to give him the TP treatment, Tony Parker treatment,
No,
or unleash him?
you know what? You know what, Jeff? Like, I hadn't even mentioned Castle yet, which is ironic because I'm finishing
Yeah.
a piece on him right now. But in mentioning Barnes and Paul, I was just thinking like the first game of the season, like the first week of the season. It would not surprise me at all if by mid-November Castle is getting significant run.
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to be starting by mid-November? Probably not. But like,
Mm-hmm.
is he going to be on the court for a good chunk of the game and potentially in several late game situations? I can see that being the case before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So you add him to the mix. That's another guy who's going to have the ball in his hands quite a bit and probably contribute quite a bit. And so, yeah, another reason I think that this team isn't. It's not a run it back. That I could see what somebody was saying. I could see somebody saying run it back if their biggest additions were Jetty Osman type guys. Like
Sure.
if their two signings were Osman and Doug McDermott, I'd be like, yeah, that's running it back. But considering even though Paul and Barnes aren't Luka and Giannis, they're
Mm-hmm.
still gonna dramatically impact the way the Spurs play this season and what you see from the Spurs. Therefore, and you add Castle in the mix, therefore it's not running it back, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. And look, we're making it very clear, everybody. This just because there's not been a major move doesn't mean it could be on the horizon. There's that magical date, Hector, August 6th, about the whole, if marketing is going to do the extension or not. The last report, I don't know what you've seen, but the last report I've seen is that marketing is leaning towards staying in Utah.
Yeah, he's looking at
Uh,
signing the extension.
yeah, signing the extension. How much of a factor do you think that is in the Spurs' plans if they're looking to bring him aboard?
Um, that's a big factor. You mean how
Yeah,
much is marketing on their
like
radar?
right. How much do you think that might push them to say, you know what? Okay, he's doing the extension. Let's go all in.
Um, that's a great question because at that point, then you've got to then now it becomes, do we want to take on that contract?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Um, and that would be a move that, for better or for worse, would tie up your future. And they've
Hmm.
been very, very cautious about how they proceeded with their future. Hence the Paul and the Barnes. I mean, let's be honest, right? The biggest reasons for the Barnes and the Paul moves are the specifics around their contracts,
Hmm.
right? Like, it's as simple as that. This Chris Paul right now had 3 years, 80 million left on his contract, the Spurs don't make that, and that's what he was coming off of, and that was his market
Hmm.
value. The Spurs wouldn't have made a move to generate a similar deal. With Barnes, if he had 4 years left on his contract, they would not have made that deal.
Hmm.
So therein lies with how comfortable are they with Markkanen being the guy that is their Wemby number two, their Wemby number 2A, you know.
Hmm.
And to be honest, what makes me think that they're not fully convinced, Jeff. What makes me think that they're not fully convinced that he's the guy long in terms of giving all that up and giving all that money and,
Hmm.
and signing the contract is, if they were that convinced, they would have already made the move. They would have upped
Sure.
the offer.
Yeah,
They would have upped the offer that would have
because they can
entailed.
afford the sticker price. They
Sure.
easily.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whether the sticking point with Utah is next year's Atlanta Hawks unprotected first round pick, or whether the sticking point is Devin Vassell, or whether Danny Ainge wants both of them, knowing Danny Ainge. If the Spurs were to have said yes to either or, that move would already have been made because they
Mhm.
truly believe that Markkanen would have been Wemby's Jaylen Brown or
Right.
Wemby's Jamal Murray. You
Hmm.
know,
Yeah, that's something definitely to monitor. But again, with the idea and I guess they're loosely running it back, for the most part. Because think about it, if they did swing for the fences, whether it had been Trey Young or Laurie, by this time, this team would have been gutted. Knowing Danny Ainge, maybe not Atlanta. Maybe Atlanta would just really want picks if they're going to go into the rebuild mode. We shall see, but We want to know what you think, everybody. Do you think the Spurs are running it back? And if so, pros or cons? What do you like about it? What don't you like? You let Hector know on X at Hector Ledesma TV. Do that right now. When we get back, we're going to be talking about your thoughts, Locked On Spurs fan comments. I want to talk about Game Time. Go to gametime.co right now. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. Makes getting tickets easier and faster, just pretty much easy, making your life very easy. Surprise yourself. Go check it out. Get that app. You'll be surprised to see how many tickets are available for you in your area only through Game Time. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. They got killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Look, they got flash deals, zone deals, event cancellation protection, job loss protection. Those last minute deals, you can save up to 60% off buying last minute tickets for sports, concert, theater, comedy, what have you. All in pricing. On the app, they have a toggle feature. You can see the prices up front, so there's no surprise costs. And those flash deals, save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That'll get you $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from the Cybertron Spurs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs, joined by Hector Ledesma. Follow him on X at Hector Ledesma TV, contributor at Bally Sports and Spurs writer for Clutch Points. And we're talking all things silver and black. And Hector, it is the offseason. This doesn't mean that the Spurs fans, or in this case, Locked On Spurs fans, are slowing down with their thoughts on the silver and black. Let's dive into some fan comments. All right, Hector, the first one is up is from Mr. Stevie the Great. I think he thinks all highly of him. So Mr. Stevie the Great, yeah. He says, Stephon Castle, seems a lot like DeJounte Murray to me as far as his style of play, but more of a low-key personality like Tim Duncan. Thank you, Mr. Stevie, for that comment. Hector, he's reacted to a recent Locked On Spurs where we had a game where we had to try to compare Stephon Castle to a present or a past Spur.
Okay.
Mr. Stevie saying Castle compares to DeJounte Murray as far as the ceiling. What do you think?
I think he can have a greater ceiling than DeJounte. I think what I notice about Castle right away is his game is pretty smooth. And if the skill set and the talent, especially at such a young age, is at a point where you can kind of see NBA breakout potential, that smoothness tends to translate well because him being smooth is a product of him being already comfortable and having a sense of what he wants to do, where he wants to go, and not being in a hurry. And those guys, especially when you add the skill set and in his case, the size as well, 6'6" point guard, that tends to translate well. So I think DeJounte, and you look at the defensive end too. I mean, Castle's a nuisance, whereas that's where DeJounte kind of excelled when he first came in. DeJounte in his first couple of years was high. You could always see the potential, like the rawness in DeJounte, but where he really contributed early on was his defense and his aggression. He was high motor. His offense was kind of the last thing to come along. Castle's offense is already above, especially at the age. I mean, Castle's not going to turn 20 until after the season starts. Castle's going to be 19 years old on opening night still. So now his birthday is early November, so he's only going to be 19 for like a week or 2 weeks, depending on when the season starts. But still, it goes to the point of just how young he is. And I think part of the reason why he's so smooth and he kind of lets the game happen a little bit is because of his experience at UConn this past year. And so I think the ceiling is higher than DeJounte. Like, I'll put it to you this way: Do you foresee DeJounte making another All-Star game? I would probably say no.
No, I don't think so either.
Okay, I can see 10 years down the road, Castle having been to multiple All-Stars. I can see that. Will he? Will he be the best point guard in the NBA? Probably not in 10 years. Will he be top 2 in the NBA in terms of point guards year in and year out? Probably not. But I can see him 10 years from now having been a multiple time All-Star, one of those type guys. Maybe made one his fourth year, made another one his seventh year. I can see that, for Stephon Castle.
For me, when I looked at Castle, I put his ceiling. Now we're just talking about on the court, X's and O's and stats only. Alvin Robertson, I can see that. I can see that tenacious defense, that feared defender, but also a solid contributor on the offensive end. Alvin was a beast. I always say Alvin was Kawhi Leonard before Kawhi Leonard. There's that too. But as far as a more immediate comp, I could see Castle being a kind of another Derek White in that mold, which is great. Derek White is good, damn good player in the NBA. He's a champion right now. But I could see that kind of being his ceiling, a Derek White, maybe with just an even better defense. I think the offense will be there, but when you're playing with Wemby, let's face it, the offense is going to go through him first and foremost, maybe Vassell second. So what do you think about that comp? Maybe like a Derek White, Alvin Robertson mode.
I think he's going to be better than Derek White, Jeff. I think part of the reason that Derek White thrives is because he's playing next to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and Chris Bops is running around there and they got Drew Holiday. I think that's part of the reason why Derek White thrives. I think Castle is Let me put it to you this way, Jeff. If it would not shock me if 6-7 years from down the road, okay, I was just about to give a comparison. Mm-hmm. I was just about to give you a scenario. So in let me stop myself and give you that scenario, and let me give you an actual comp. I brought up his name earlier. I wouldn't be surprised if 6-7 years down the road, Castle is not in terms of the way he plays, not in terms of his style of play, but in terms of impact and what he does toward helping you win. I can see Castle being a Jamal Murray type player, impact. I can see that. Now, it's funny, Big Jeff, because as I say that, I am actually going to look up right now to see how many All-Star games Jamal Murray has made, because I just said that I think Castle can make 2 All-Star games, what have you. Jamal Murray has never made an All-Star game.
Never. Yep.
He's never. His biggest accolade has been All Rookie Second Team in 2017. So maybe in real time, I'm checking myself here. Maybe 2 All-Star games isn't what Castle is in line for, but maybe an All-Star game, a fringe All-Star, other seasons. But a guy who, like Jamal Murray, is indispensable to you and will help you win. To me, that's a better impact comp than Derek White. Obviously, we'll see what happens, but because I shouldn't be so liberal with the term All-Star selections, because Darius Garland's only made 1 All-Star game, right? Like Lauri Markkanen has only made 1 All-Star game. Like, unless you're the cream of the crop, most guys don't make multiple All-Star games, But yeah, I think somewhere between that Jamal Murray and maybe like a 2-time All-Star is where I see Stephon Castle down the line.
I thank you so much for that comment there, Mr. Great, I guess, because we'll see. Keep them coming, everybody. All right, the next comment, Hector, is from $8 Beats. He says, "We Spurs have to improve in many areas, including our defense consistency." What do you think about that? He thinks the Spurs need a complete improvement across the board, defense and consistency being 1 and 2. Do you agree or disagree with that take?
They don't. They have potentially the ultimate Batman. Maybe not this coming year, but for the years to come, they've got Batman. They've got Superman. You call him whatever you want.
Sure.
They don't. The job is to build around him. If he leaves after his rookie contract, then he leaves, and you do what you can to start all over. But Wemby is your centerpiece. Everything you do revolves around Wemby. So when you're looking at players, how they're going to fit with Wemby is going to be huge in terms of your end analysis of whether you bring them in. You don't need to revamp everything. That's why they were fine this past draft with the 2 picks, and like it wasn't a deep draft. And what do? And there's nobody who's going to be a star. They don't need a star, and they don't need another that type of star. They already got their ultimate star. Can they get a star who's going to help them win along with Wemby. So I don't think I can see what he's saying in terms of revamping, in terms of, hey, if you win 22 games, like nobody on your roster should be safe. Well, obviously that doesn't apply to Wemby. I can see that general mindset, but there's not a need to go into, somewhat of a panic mode and say, and say, Keldon's got to go, Jeremy's got to go, Devin's obviously not a number 2 guy right now, he's got to go. Like, there's no need to do that, so much as the overall goal is to improve the team with addition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, look, you could be the world champions right now, Boston Celtics, you could be the runner-ups, Dallas Mavericks, you could be every team can use improvement year in, year out. That's what everybody's supposed to do. That's what GMs are there for, to improve the team. The Spurs, fortunately for them, as Hector pointed out, they already have the ultimate weapon, and that is Wemby. They got themselves hopefully a good point guard for the rebuild cast. And they're stocked with draft picks and, yes, flippable players that they can use right now for a marketing, Hector. So you're just catching this team at the worst possible time through a rebuild. So that's what it looks like they need to board. But I say there could be good in certain areas. I think they're good at the center spot. That's an obvious. They're good at the point guard spot. I mean, how much depth did they got there? Trey, Blake Wesley, CP3. They're fine. What about a forward help? You got Sohan, you got Vassell, you got Barnes. So I think they're okay. I don't think the improvement across the board, Hector, right now, I think is going to be key. It's just chemistry to get things going for the season. Your thoughts?
I think so. In order to become a title contender, this is the best way I can answer your question, Jeff. Let's say they truly do run it back with this core next year and the year after that. Like, I know that I totally understand that Chris Paul is going to be like 40 and 41 the next 2 years, right? But let's say they do. I don't think, like, in 2 years, this exact same core, everybody being brought back and add like a first round, add like a draft pick, like a good draft pick, not a game-changing draft pick, but just a good draft pick who's going to contribute. I don't think 2 years from now, this core is going to be championship level just because Wemby's that much. So in me reaching that conclusion, that tells me they have to make some moves. Like, if Sohan doesn't become what they think Sohan doesn't become, if Vassell doesn't take a leap that we think he might, and the Spurs hope like he's gonna leap, like I think he might take a leap in terms of getting better and a better score, better all around game. Like, there comes a point where that core just isn't gonna get it done, and you do have to look to make some actual changes. But the nature comes in, what are those changes? Do you trade everybody away? What kind of moves do you make? And so, no, I don't think as is. I don't think the core as it is right now is going to be ready for prime time in 2 years. Obviously, I could be wrong, but I think there has to be other moves. I just don't think that move has to be a number 1 type guy, because you already have a number 1 guy.
And look, it'll come. For all we know, Hector, that number 2 guy could be it could be Vassell. Heck, it could be Castle. Castle, breaks out, in his rookie season, shows the flash potential to be, a really good point guard or guard in the NBA. We don't know what he's going to be slotted at yet, but a guard moving forward. So yeah, it could even come from the upcoming draft and the next one they got. You got multiple picks. It could be in this deep draft that we're hearing about in 2025. So the Spurs are in good position right now. Yes, $8 bet to improve in their area. It could be pretty good right moving forward. He is Hector Ledesma. Make sure to follow him on X at Hector Ledesma TV, contributor at Sports and Clutch Points Out. You've been hinting at it throughout the show, Hector. But you got something cooking. We got a Sean Elliott, and what else you got going on?
So I'm finishing up a deal on Stefan Castle, and if there is any kind of a reservation as he comes out of summer league, what's that reservation? So finishing that piece up, and that is actually going to be up very, very soon. Also going to, what the Spurs' biggest or best free agent move has been. Look for that in the coming days. And then I also want to still do a piece, and I still haven't gotten around to it. I think I mentioned the last time you had me on, I think I mentioned this, is how this summer is reminding me of the summer before David Robinson's rookie year and the summer right after Tim Duncan's rookie year. How there's a symmetry there between the Spurs' approach in building around then David, then Tim, and now Vic. Now the difference is unlike David, unlike Vic, I don't think anybody expects this team to be a deep playoff contender, but in terms of within the context, the moves they're making, they're pretty similar.
Absolutely. And of course, he has the Sean Elliott piece that is available now. You want to go check it out, just go to his X handle right now, Hector Ledesma TV. And first of all, everybody, we thank y'all for putting up with the audio only portion. Unfortunately, I had some, so it was all on me, not on Hector. Had some equipment malfunction, but hopefully I can get it fixed by then. By the way, everybody, in case you haven't noticed, we are now on the off-season mode here at Locked On Spurs, not one every day. So we're having a maximum 3 a week. So we'll try to keep it going here. Spurs, as always, we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen every single day. Subscribe, Locked On Spurs, over at YouTube, Ken's 5 Plus app, iTunes, and on. We'll be back likely Friday. I think we're going to have a special guest lined up for Friday. I'll keep that under wraps, so stay tuned for that. So for Hector Ledesma, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On.